These are all the books that I want to reread constantly. My name is Sydney and I am such a creature of habit. I have a pretty busy life between running my own business and traveling quite a lot. When most of my life is changing day to day and I don't really know what's going to happen next, I like to have the stability of things that are familiar to me. One example of this is that I don't get a ton of time to watch TV or movies. Instead of scrolling through Netflix or Disney Plus, I tend to go through my DVD collection and rewatch one of my old favorites. It gets to the point where when I have a favorite, I pretty much have those things memorized. The same thing kind of happens with books, in which I get favorites and all I want to do is reread them constantly because they are comforts to me. I have gotten better in years past of branching out, trying new genres, trying new authors, trying new books, but there are book series that just haunt me all the time. I have to fight myself constantly to pick up new things that I haven't read yet instead of picking up old things that I know I'm going to love. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my shelves to show you all the books that are constantly calling out to me that they want to be read. If you're following along with my TBR challenge, you'll know that I have almost 800 books and about 80% of them are unread, and yet those 20% that I have read, a lot of them I've read multiple times. I'm gonna pick you up and take you through my shelves because I think that might be a little easier than me grabbing the books off the shelves and then having to put them back. So we're gonna take a little tour through my bookshelves. Okay, a mini tour of my bookshelves before we get deeper in. These are my fantasy shelves. These are going to be my romance area. All of these top three over here are all going to be Regency romance. These are my contemporary romance into special editions, mythology retellings, mythology and fairy tales, my SJM shelf, my Harry Potter shelf, whoa, focus, my cookbooks and travel books, my nonfiction and things like that. And then on the floor are unfortunately boxes of my dystopian books, my YA books, and then books I have set out to read next. We are starting out the video super strong with this entire section because this is all of my Rick Riordan books, aka Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief. As you can see, I have the original series here, the next series, and then a few more. I wanted this series to have 2 shelves, but the way that my books are right now, I don't have the room. But I am constantly fighting the urge to pick up this whole series. I reread The Lightning Thief in front of the first season of the new TV show coming out, and so I told myself that when the second season comes out, I'll reread everything, because there are books later in time, like The Trials of Apollo, that I actually never got to because they weren't out yet the last time I reread through the series. So next year I will be reading all of these. Most of them I've read before, but some of the ones over on this side I have not gotten to yet. Coming over here to my normal fantasy tables, this is the Graceling series. It is one of my favorite series of all times, and I have read Graceling, the first book, at least a dozen times. It was one of my favorite books in middle school, and now that more books have been released, I've obviously gotten all the different editions of them. These are the original editions, and then they have these newer editions in the US. My favorite are these UK editions. This is one of the only series that I'll have multiple editions for because I love them so much. Going down a shelf, these are mostly unread to me. Coming over here, I already want to reread the Shepherd King duology. I read them not too long ago and I want to reread them so badly. I have yet to read the third Once Upon a Broken Heart book, but I want to reread the Caravel series and the first 2 before I read the third. So that's going to be a reread that actually does something for me. Coming down here, I just finished the last of the Elise Kova books in the Married to Magic series. I'll probably reread them in a few years, but not right now. Over here, I do want to reread the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy and the following books, but I've decided I'm now going to wait for her other books to come out before I do that. And these are all my Trisha Levenseller books. I read the first few, but there are others of hers that I have not read yet. Like I have not read Vengeance of the Pirate Queen, so I think I do want to reread as I go through the rest of her work. And right next to it is the Maid Mishap series. I just read them in like January, but I already want to reread them because they were so much fun. Coming down here, I'd love to read the entirety of Naomi Novik's backlist, so I would love to reread Uprooted and Spinning Silver, and then go into her Schoolomance series, I believe it is. Down here, I would already love to reread Where the Dark Stands Still, even though I read it this spring, and I would love to reread The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's been a little while since I've read it. You can't super see because there's just extra books down here, but there's nothing really down here that I super want to reread, except for my Peter Pans that are down there. I read it at least once a year. I'm absolutely not going to go through these bins, so I'm going to have to look at my spreadsheet. Down here are all my fairy tales. There's nothing down here that I really want to reread right now, and then the same for my mythology. I just want to read them the first time. Up to my mythology retellings, however, every book on here I want to either read for the first time or reread. I obviously love everything Madeline Miller. I adore Gods of Jade and Shadow. It's been a while since I've read it. I've read Ariadne, but not the rest of her work, so I love to reread it all. Everything by Natalie Haynes is just fantastic. I just want to read this whole shelf, whether for the first time or for the second or third or fourth. I've read The Hobbit so many times, and I intend to read it so many more. I would love to have an entire Lord of the Rings dedicated month so I can take my time going through for the books, because I haven't read them since high school, so this reread is definitely coming soon. These are my 2 romance series. I just finished the Lovelight Farm series, and I'd love to reread it again already. I will be rereading everything by Ali Hazelwood, because I haven't read her 2 newest releases, but I would love to go back and read them all, so I think I'm going to make a little book video about that, a little vlog. Same with Emily Henry. I've only read half her stuff, and what I have read, it was a few years ago. Obviously, I'm constantly fighting the urge to reread Pride and Prejudice. I did very recently get this new edition where somebody hand wrote all the letters in the book. I'm so excited, so I think I'm going to reread this pretty soon so I can read the letters. I am so incredibly excited. Now, these 3 shelves right here are all my historical romance books. They are all of the authors that I've been tracking, because it's really hard to find their stuff online, so whenever I find it in used bookstores, I grab them up. So I haven't read most of these, so they don't really count as rereading. But there are books up here that I either read a long time ago or haven't gotten to, or just read the first of the series that I will be rereading as I get to the rest of them. These 2 books are my general fiction books, just all the other fiction things that fit into here. Nothing in here I've been really dying to reread. These are my 2 nonfiction shelves. Nothing in here that I'm really dying to reread. Goes into my cookbooks and travel books and whatnot. I am currently deep in the trenches of this SJM reread. So far, I've re-listened to the entirety of ACOTAR and the first 4 books on Libby in the Throne of Glass series. So I still need to read the rest of Throne of Glass and re-listen and reread Crescent City, because I still haven't read the newest book in the Crescent City series. I started the reread back in January, and it's now been 10 months and I still haven't finished. And then down here in the shelves, this is my Harry Potter shelf. It's obviously kind of hidden back here. I haven't read the books since high school, so I'd love to do a reread of those. Okay, let me look through my spreadsheet to see what other books are in those boxes, because I know The Hunger Games are in there. I want to reread those so badly. Same with Divergent and The Maze Runner. I know those are in those books. Let's see what else I have. Okay, aside from those dystopia novels, those are the only ones in my room that I'm like fighting a reread. But looking back through my reading spreadsheet, there's a few books from 2021 that I've been wanting to reread so badly, because I loved them back then and I'm wondering if I'd still love them now. 2 of those being the Stormcrow duology by Kaylin Josephson. I loved those books back then and I really want to reread them. And then I loved the Frostblood trilogy by Ellie Blake. I'm sure rereading them now I wouldn't like them as much, but I really want to reread them. I also really want to reread the 10,000 Doors of January and Ashley Poston's YA novels, starting with Geekerella, The Princess and the Fangirl, and Bookish and the Beast. I ended up loving those years ago and I'd love to reread them. So I want to know, do you like to reread books? Are there books that you are constantly fighting the urge to not pick up? Or do you give in and just reread the same books? Do you ever reread books? I want to know if you have the same fights and impulses that I do. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.